Welcome back to Tech Visa. This is episode number 3. And if you haven't already, be sure to subscribe to this channel as we'll be bringing you the latest in Australian immigration updates. We have a very special guest on the mic today. Not only is she our general manager here at Tech Visa, but she is one of the most knowledgeable and articulate individuals when it comes to interpreting migration legislation. Her going rate is about $1,000 an hour, and today we get to pick her brain for free. Em, welcome.
Thank you so much, Zach. That's a really warm and lovely welcome, and I really hope I live up to the intro. Like you've introduced, I love what we do. Day in, day out, immigration law excites me. So all the changes that's coming our way really excites me. And I think people that interact with me, clients, applicants, hear it in my voice as well. When they speak with me, they say, oh, Em, you're really passionate about what you do. So thank you for having me this afternoon.
It's an absolute pleasure. And thanks for taking the time to sit down with us. This is going to be awesome. So as we all know, there have been some massive announcements made over the last couple of weeks. And last week, the federal budget was made public knowledge. And there's some huge implications on the Australian immigration system. So I thought it'd be a good opportunity for us to sit down today and nut these out, take a deep dive, and see what this means for us. They're taking a strategic shift that aims to simplify the migration system, address skill shortages, and provide opportunities for diverse groups. Straight out of the gates, the department has definitely recognized that we're in a skill crisis in Australia at the moment. And in order to address this, they're allocating 70% of migration places to skilled visas. This is huge. Give me your thoughts, Em.
It's very positive change, not only for employers that we work with. They range from startups to scale-ups to well-established businesses that has been telling us for years, during COVID, now out of COVID recovery, that the skill shortage in Australia needs to be addressed. Let me define that skilled visa program a little bit for our audience. So 70% is massive. That's out of 190,000 places, which equates to about 137,000 to people that are on short-term temporary visas, which is the TSS, transitioning to ENS, which is the 186 employer sponsor program, captured by that skilled visa. It'd be independent applicants for the 189, 190 through the state sponsorship or individually, as well as the global talent individuals as well, which is the 85A visa category. So it's I'm holding up my breath to see what each of these programs get in terms of their allotted placements, and I think we'll share with the wider community as soon as we know.
So do you think this is a big step in the right direction when it comes to addressing these skill shortages here? Is this what we really need?
I believe so. I think Minister O'Neill has really done her homework through the first part of her sort of term to kind of understand the needs of the Australian businesses, to understand the needs of migrants. She stood up and said there's not going to be a permanent temporary program, which is widely accepted and loved and positive change for everyone that's in Australia. So I think that's a great start. I think having more places would allow businesses to be a bit more strategic as well with how they grow their business, what kind of talent to take on board. And I think, based on past department data, 70% of the program will be filled to its brim to be able to then help solve the skill shortage crisis in Australia.
And not to go too off track, what does this mean for the rest of the 30%?
I knew you were going to ask me that. So the rest of the 30% obviously go to the other categories. So that'd be the family type. So that'd be partner, parent, children type of visas. Anything else that's not encompassed by the skilled or the partner, there's only very limited amounts. But to give you some perspective, investment visas obviously lead to permanent residency. They only got 200 places last year in the program year. Doesn't look positive on that end, but yeah. I think Australia is obviously doing what it can to balance the need of the country.
Next up, international students. I feel like they've been through this, this turmoil over COVID. It's been so up and down. The program's been all over the place, but Claire O'Neill's definitely taken a more focused approach and realised the importance that international students play in the growth of the Australian economy. So the good news is they'll be opening new opportunities for international students, offering uncapped working hours for certain industries. This is a step in the right direction?
I believe so. I think, look, hand on heart, we wouldn't have gone through COVID, lockdowns or recovery without the student visa cohort in Australia. They have obviously helped out a lot in the hospitality, in the healthcare and aged care, disability support areas. So to clarify, from the 1st of July, they are reintroducing the work limitation for student visa holders, which has been relaxed over the COVID period. So aged care workers as a holder of a student visa are still exempt, so they can still work full time. But for everyone else in a professional role, would be allowed to only work 48 hours per fortnight, which equates to about 3 business days from the 1st of July 2023.
Okay, so moving on, word on the street is that they've allocated $75.8 million over the next 2 years to increase resources. Is this going to expedite visa processing, Em?
I really, really hope so. Look, to be fair to the department, they have picked up an additional 500 processing staff towards the end of last year up until now. So they have been already sort of planning and taking action with, I think, the knowing that the funds will be available. The 482 temporary skill shortage applications are definitely improved or sped up. So most candidates or businesses are now waiting 1 to 4 weeks or so for processing from the date of lodgement rather than months and months when it was during COVID.
So safe to say, extra resources, extra funding allocation, speed up processing times, cross fingers.
Cross fingers. We do get some rookie case officers asking rookie kind of questions and sending requests unnecessarily, but it's part of the job, and the team have no problems addressing those. It's just we want to make sure that the department turn them around, but turn it with quality.
And every financial year, we expect a fee increase for visa application fees, usually in line with inflation. This year, it's been a little bit all over the place, right? So talk to me a little bit more about these fee increases. Is it in line with inflation? I mean, inflation has been going through the roof, but we have seen some enormous increases in certain subclasses.
I mean, that carries on from our last question, didn't it? Where's the $75 million funding coming from? So, I mean, look, definitely department charging fees is one way of raising revenue for that specific section of the government, which is the Department of Home Affairs and all of the applications. This year, the fee increase is a little bit, like you say, a little bit all over the place, a little bit shocking. I mean, it ranges from 6%, which I think is on the CPI mark. It's about 7% in Australia right now, up to 40%. I mean, but to give you some sort of idea, the 40% are only for the business, innovation, and investment visas, which I said with that very small allocation of numbers in the program year. The standard ones that we use for employer applications, which is the 482 or the 186, that's only at 6%. So that's reasonable compared to the current economic conditions. But then some other temporary visas are going up by 15%. Those include the visitor visas, working holiday maker visas, training and temporary activity visas, which includes the 408, whether that's COVID or other streams of that 408 program.
Nice. You touched briefly on the 482, so I'm going to take you down a rabbit hole. Something that we haven't really spoken about yet is the unlimited number of 482 visa applications, which we are hoping will be implemented by the start of next year. So do you just want to explain a little bit more about the cap that was on the 482 visa applications, the need to go offshore, and then we can dive a little bit deeper into what this means moving forward and for short-term 482 visa holders?
The cap that people are referring to was if you were nominated or previously been nominated in the 482 program under a short-term occupation, which could be your marketing professionals, your PR professionals, recruitment HR professionals. So the first one normally people get outside of Australia, or their first one after they work on holiday. And then you apply for the first lot, which is 2 years, and then a second lot, which is another 2 years. And then basically that was the end of the road, because the department was saying when they introduced the 482 visa program that these short-term occupations are not in critical shortage. Therefore, people aren't going to have permanent options to remain. And if you wanted to lodge a third one to meet any Australian operational needs, then it had to be done outside of Australia. What the announcement of Minister O'Neill was saying was that you can actually now have that not be limited. So people can apply still for their third one from the 1st of July, 2023.
Okay, so not directly related to the federal budget, but I thought just because we got Em with us, she's in our presence, I thought we would give you a little bit of an overview of the 400 visa. The only reason being because a lot of the time when I'm out and about, I meet founders, I meet business owners. They aren't actually aware of the 400 visa program. And it's actually an awesome program. It's a short-term, highly specialized project-based visa. And I thought, Em, why don't you give us a little bit of an overview, processing times, what this looks, and how companies use this and implement it into their strategies?
Definitely. And it's like you say, it's like a bit of a forgotten one in the Migration Programs Act. So the 400, like you said, is a short-term specialist work visa. So the way that we see Australian businesses utilize it is if they had to buy a specialist plant or machinery from overseas. A lot of European providers are still sort of the big ones in construction. So because they bought a machinery, they normally would need the overseas supplier to send technicians. to come, make sure the installation is up to standards, and obviously not only to the European manufacturing standards, but Australian safety standards, as well as train up Australian local technicians to be able to service and maintain the machinery going forward. So that's one of the standard pathways that we've used this program, or helped Australian businesses use this program. So it can be requested normally from 3 to 6 months, depending on the complexity of the project. Really, really good turnaround time in terms of the department. They are considered an offshore application. So the technician or the specialist must be outside of Australia to be eligible to apply. And it is processed by offshore sort of DFAT officers of the department. And most are turned around within a couple of weeks. So 1 to 4 is sort of what we're seeing. One being, the US, Canadian, lower risk passport holders, and then a little bit more high risk may tend to go, 3 or 4 weeks, but because there's additional checks that they need to undergo. Another way sort of for Australian businesses to utilize this is recently we had an example where an Australian business had a senior manager depart, so they needed to get their overseas entity senior manager to come over and caretake for a little while. So that's about a 3 to 6 month project until they kind of replace that role permanently. And that's another way to quickly get the overseas senior manager to come and obviously come to Australia with the work rights, can sit in the office, be with the team, and caretake while they're in Australia as a holder of a 400. Very cost-effective visa as well. It will go up, I think, by 15%, but it's still, right now is only $325 Australian dollars to apply. Gets someone here 3 to 6 months to be able to service Australian business to meet operational needs.
Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down today. Some amazing insights there. If you have enjoyed this video, be sure to like it and subscribe to the channel for all the latest Australian immigration updates.